Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist and today doing a Lyrilusc deck profile. So I'm really excited to see you guys because this deck is a really fun XZ based deck that can summon out some extremely powerful rank 1s to your side of the field like Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale, which can actually attack your opponent directly multiple times, which is a super cool effect. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards like in your name, description, and single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test stands. So without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're doing 3 copies of Lyrilusc Turquoise Warbler, which is a great 3-up for the deck that has the ability that if you control no monsters, then you can special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is special summoned from your hand, you can special summon a Lyrilusc monster from your hand or graveyard, which basically gives you 2 monsters on the field to start making your XZ plays. We then play 3 copies of Cobalt Sparrow. Sparrow is a really good 3-up as well for the deck that has the ability to, if this card is special summoned, you get to add a level 1 Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, and a Wind XZ monster that uses this card as the material gains the ability that your opponent cannot target this card with card effects, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 3 copies of Sapphire Sparrow. Sapphire Sparrow is a good 3-up for the deck as well, and that has the ability that if you control a Winged Beast type monster, that you can special summon both this card and 1 level 1 Winged Beast type monster from your hand to your side of the field. And when you XZ summon a Wind XZ monster using this card as a material, if it has an XZ material, then you can target a Lyrilusc monster in the graveyard and attach it to that XZ monster as an additional material, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 3 copies of Canary. Canary is an insanely good card for this deck that has the ability to, if this card's in your hand, you can target a Lyrilusc monster in the graveyard and special summon both this card and that monster, but you can't special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except XZ monsters, which is not that big of a deal because the majority of the time in this deck, that's all we're going to be summoning anyways. It also has the ability that a wind monster that uses this card as a material gains the ability that it gains 200 attack. Also, the control of it cannot switch, which is a really good effect to basically lock down your monsters to know that you're always going to get to keep them. I really like that effect and really like these monsters basically make sure that your monster is going to get bonus effects as you use them as XZ material. We then play 2 copies of Wagtail. Wagtail is a 2-of for me because it's super good, but you only need 2 copies of it. It has the ability, if this card is special summoned, you get to add a Lyrilusc spell or trap from your deck to your hand, and if this card is in your graveyard, you can target a Lyrilusc XZ monster you control and attach this card to it as a material. But the reason I just play this card as a 2-of is because it doesn't really do anything by itself, which is why I play 2 instead of 3. We then play 3 copies of DD Crow. DD Crow is a really good hand trap for this deck because it is a level 1 Winged Beast monster that has the ability that quick effect, you can discard this card to the graveyard and then target 1 card in your opponent's grave and banish it, which is really good to get rid of certain cards that your opponent might be using in the graveyard that you don't want to let them keep, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is a really good hand trap as well for this deck because during the opponent's main phase, you can discard this card to negate 1 monster on the field's effect, which is a really good effect. We then play 3 copies of Ash Blossom just to basically make it so your opponent can't touch the deck. This card's a really good hand trap in just about any deck and is overall a fantastic card in this build. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Lyrilusc Bird Sanctuary. This card is a great 1-of in the deck that has the ability that you can target 2 Winged Beast XZ monsters that you control and attach 1 of those monsters to the other as a material and transfer all the materials to that monster. And if you control an XZ monster with 3 or more materials, then you can draw a card and you can only use each effect this card once per turn. Fantastic 1-of, easily searchable off of Wagtail, so you only really need 1 copy of this card, but it's super good to be able to attach multiple materials to your copies of your Assembled Nightingale, so you can attack multiple times and gain attack points. We then play a single copy of Call by the Grave just to stop our opponent's hand traps. Really good 1-of in the deck to just stop your opponent from hand trapping you as you're going through your combos. 1 copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Harpy's Feather Duster is a really good card in this deck to be able to just board wipe your opponent's back row, so you don't have to deal with any of that while you're going in for game. We then play 2 copies of Triple Tactical Talents. Triple Tactical Talents is a good 2-of in this build because it has the ability that if your opponent activates a monster effect during your main phase, this turn you can activate one of these effects to either draw 2 cards, take control of a monster until the end of the turn that your opponent controls, or look at your opponent's hand and choose 1 card from it and shuffle it into the deck. This card is a really good 2-of in this build because you don't really care if you get hand trapped all that much, but it helps you to draw the 2 extra cards from the deck so you can get more combo pieces as you want to play. We then play 3 copies of Lyrilusc Bird Call. Bird Call is basically the searcher of the deck that has the ability to take a Lyrilusc monster from your deck and either add it to your hand or send it to the graveyard. Then you can special summon a Lyrilusc monster with a different name from your hand to your side of the field. This card is an absolute 3-of and helps out the deck so much to play this card at 3. It helps out a lot to be able to get any of your Lyrilusc monsters that you want on the field or in the graveyard so you can combo off your plays. We then play 3 copies of Where Art Thou, which is an additional searcher for the deck that has the ability that if you control a level 1 monster, you can add 1 level 1 monster from your deck to your hand, and then during the end phase of this turn, you take 2,000 points of damage if you didn't normal summon the added monster or a card with the same name after activating this card, which is not that big of a deal. 2,000 points is not going to be that big of a deal because usually when you activate this card, you're closing out a game anyways. So this card is just a really good 3-of to get the exact card that you need, and plus, it's not a once per turn, so you can activate multiple of this card every single turn, which is really nice. We then play 3 copies of Wing Requital. Ring Requital is a good draw card for this deck, especially in the pure version of Lyrilusc, because it has the ability to have all monsters that you control are wing beast monsters, and you control at least 2 monsters with different original names. You can pay 600 life points to be able to draw 2 cards. It is a once per turn, but it helps you get your Lyrilusc monsters from the deck to be able to just draw into them so you can start going into some really good combos. The majority of the time, we're only going to control wing beasts anyways, but it's easy to play around because if you already have monsters on the field that aren't wing beasts, you're probably in a winning game state. But if you activate this early combo, then you're going to be able to draw additional cards to get more combo pieces or more hand traps to be able to control the board. So this card is a great 3-of in the deck. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. We're only playing a couple of traps in this build, and for the traps that we are playing, we're just playing 3 additional hand traps, and that's going to be 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Infinite Impermanence is a really good card, especially if you get pushed to go second in this deck, because it has the ability to target one face-up monster your opponent controls and negate its effects. And if you don't control any card, then you can just immediately activate this card from your hand like a hand trap, which is really, really good in this deck, because you're basically playing 12 hand traps in this build between this, DD Crow, Ash Blossom, and Effect Veiler. Is just really, really good, especially with draw cards in this deck like Wing Requital. To be able to dig into the deck to get additional hand trap negations is just fantastic. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Assembled Nightingale. You could get away with 2. I just really like 3 because it helps me close out games. It has the ability that it takes 2 or more level 1 monsters to XZ summon this card, and it gains 200 attack for each XZ material attached to it. You can attach as many XZ materials as you have monsters on the field to this card, which is just really awesome. And this card can attack directly. And when this card has XZ materials, if it can attack a number of times each battle phase up to the number of XZ materials attached to it. And then once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach a material from this card, and until the end of this turn, Lyrilusc monsters that you control cannot be destroyed by battle or by card effects, and you don't take any battle damage. This card is a fantastic boss monster for the deck, and basically you can just bypass your opponent's monsters on the field by attacking them directly with this card. We then play 2 copies of Robin. Robin is a good 2-of in this build as well because it has the ability to gain 500 attack for each material attached to it, and if your opponent special summons a monster, except during the damage step, you can detach a material from this card and then target one of those special summon monsters and return it to the hand. And if this card in your possession is sent to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target one of their Lyrilusc monster in the grave and add it back to hand, which is a pretty good effect to basically have a walking compulse on the field while also being able to get a card back from the graveyard if this card does leave the field, which is a pretty good effect. We then play 2 copies of Thrush. Thrush is a good 2-of as well for the deck. I like this card as a 2-of. I did consider playing it as a 1-of in this deck, but I ended up with 2 and really liked it after our copy of Starling went to 1. But this card has the ability that it gains 500 attack for each material attached to it, and then once per turn you can detach a material from this card and then target a spell or trap your opponent controls and shuffle it into the deck. It doesn't pop it, it just immediately shuffles it into the deck, which is an awesome effect. It also has the ability at the start of the damage step, if another monster you control battles, you can detach any number of materials from this card, and then that monster you control gains 300 attack times the materials detached until the end of the turn, which can make your copy of Assembled Nightingale get even bigger, which is really nice. We then play just a single copy of Starling, because Starling went to 1. This card is one of the best cards in the entire deck, and it's the Searcher from the extra deck that has the ability that if this card is XZ summon, you can target one monster on the field and it gains 300 attack and defense for each material attached to this card. And then once per turn, you can detach a material in this card to add a level 1 winged beast monster from your deck to your hand, and all battle damage you take from battles involving XZ monsters is also inflicted to your opponent. So this is a pretty good one of in the deck. I wish we could play more than one, but it is at 1 currently. But it's just a fantastic card in the deck to help you go for F0. We then play a single copy of this XZ monster. This is a really good card because it has the ability that it's unaffected by other card effects. And then once per turn, quick effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card, and for the rest of the turn, it cannot be destroyed battle, and also you take no battle damage from battles involving it, which is a really good card to help you just immediately go for Zeus in this deck. We then play a single copy of F0, which is easy to summon in this deck to be able to just use any 2 of your Lyrilusc monsters to go into this card and then climb into your copy of F0 to have a walking negate on the field, which is really good for this deck. We then play 2 copies of Downer Magician, because you can make it on top of any of your XZ monsters, and then go into one of our 2 copies of Zeus that we play as well. Zeus is an insanely powerful boss monster that board wipes the field, and I guarantee you they won't expect the second copy of it, but this card is just so good in this deck. So it's just a really good 2 of in this build, because basically you can make a multiple material Zeus with Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale, attack them directly, and then if you need that extra material, you can just use Downer Magician to be able to XZ summon on top of it during main 2, and then make your copy of AA Zeus to board wipe the field, and have a card that can board wipe the field multiple times. So that's it for that, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play with. I love Lyrilusc, especially the pure version of them like this. It's just super fun to be able to play. You can play a Tri-Brigade build of them, but I like to play them like this. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Definitely tell me what you think of the deck down in the comments down below. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.